Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Hello, everybody. Hey, thank you so much for joining me. Some folks already waiting. I see folks in the comments. Thank you so much for being here. Let me greet some those who are I know already. Hey, Seiko. Hey, James. James is here. Hi, from San Antonio. Lisa. Bonsoir from Paris. Hello, Ali. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I also just added Twitter or X for this live stream. That's why it took me a bit of time. Sorry, they had to go through, or I had to jump through the hoops to go live there. So let's see how long it will last, because X is usually, or Twitter, usually blocks me when I start talking about certain things. And trust me, believe me, today we're going to talk about things that worth blocking me on Twitter. So we'll see how long this will last. So I truly encourage you to go on YouTube and watch on YouTube, because if you have been tuning in here for the past half year, past about 6 months, right before the inauguration, that's when I went live daily. We experienced things on Twitter. So if you're watching on Twitter, switch to YouTube. Okay. All right. Thank you so much again for being here. This is hey, Christine from California. Chinetta is here. Hey, Paul is here. Hey, guys from New York City. Well, hello, neighbor. Good weather today in New York City, and it's going to get warmer. So we're on the in an upbeat mood. So what are we going to do today? We're going to first talk about the latest news, something that hasn't made it to the newsletter yet. And thank you again for signing up for the newsletter. It's free. Go to the website, sign up, get your actual factual news. Delivering factual information is my love language. So please, do me a favor, sign up, read actual news. This is very, very important, not just in the United States right now, but also everywhere. We see it in Canada. We see it everywhere around the world where we have elections, and we have over 60 elections this year alone. Right. So it's very, very important to connect with like-minded people. Hey, Keith. Hello. And also read factual information. So we have some, I hate the term, but we have some breaking news. So we're going to dive into that. Expect some rents, because listen, if you know me, I'm a straight shooter. So we're going to hear on that. Then we will talk about this week. What did happen? What did not happen? And then we'll dive into the betrayal of Ukraine. Let's call the thing a thing. And then we'll talk about harassment of Canada. And where does this come from? Also, speaking of Canada, congratulations. You have a new leader of the Liberal Party and currently Prime Minister. Mark Carney, he won today's election, so he just delivered a good speech. Also, now at this point, former Prime Minister, still Prime, I don't know how this works in Canada, please explain to me, but former leader of the Liberal Party, now Justin Trudeau, delivered a speech, and he left on a very important note, and it's sort of like an insider language. So I want to start with that video. By the way, I have over 40 short videos today, so nobody will be wondering where something is coming from. We have resources and sources and beyond that. So, okay. Grab a coffee, tea, drink, whatever. We're gonna be here for a little bit. So this is how Justin Trudeau left off his leadership position with this saying, and then we're gonna dive in. What does this mean? Unless you're from Canada and you know exactly what it means. Take a look.
And We're a country that will be diplomatic when we can, but fight when we must, elbows up.
And if you don't know, this saying, of course, comes from hockey and literally means elbows up. And it comes from, it's a reference to one of Canada's greatest hockey players, Gowdy Ha, aka Mr. Hockey, who would use his elbows to defend himself while playing. So it's an insider term. It's went very popular, dare I say viral lately, given the tariffs and the, let's call this thing a thing, harassment from the United States. But Canada is not only country by far that we are tending to harass. I don't mean Democratic Party or anybody beyond the White House or the Trump team and Trump universe and MAGA. And we're going to see, where does this come from? Also, how did Europe react this past week? And what are we expecting this upcoming week? All right, so let's get into those breaking news first. I call them, it's the rubric of goodness gracious. Remember how President Trump at this point, last time I went live, literally, it was the day before inauguration. So for me, it's like, it hurt. Anyway, okay, focus. Remember how much Trump cares about the fentanyl that goes allegedly across the borders from Canada, from Mexico. Everybody's dying from it. And literally, like nobody's doing anything for it. Okay. So in this rubric of goodness gracious, here's the news that was delivered today. You know what he did to combat this fentanyl that kills all these thousands, and he says 10 million Americans, which is absolutely not true by far, even though this is a problem that needs to be addressed and combated. It is being addressed. He fired the head of a key Justice Department task force that literally combats drugs and organized crime. That happened late on Friday. Of course, it will be, followed by lawsuits. None of anything that White House does is pretty much legal, or that is, using methods that we used to. All of it is a bunch of BS. But anyway, let's move on. Next thing that Donald Trump really cares about, or next demographic, are veterans, right? He says we love our veterans. Let's pray for our veterans, right? Sometimes he calls them suckers and losers. But on the other note, he definitely cares for them, right? The Department of Veterans Affairs will begin mass layoffs as early as June, according to a memo reviewed by Reuters today, as President Donald Trump's campaign sharply cut the federal government works its way through a highly politically sensitive agency. Veterans Affairs. So, for that, let's understand one thing. When Donald Trump, and at this point, President Trump and the White House say something, it means two things. You need to flip it 180, and this is exactly the method that we used to analyze anything that comes from Kremlin, if you know what I mean. And also, you need to know when they're warning you of something, it means this is already in progress of being accomplished. All right? Like, for instance, today, Elon Musk was tweeting a shitstorm about Starlink. Certainly, Ukrainian forces are depending on Starlink. It's mostly also used for HIMARS and other weaponry that is really important in terms of targeting the enemy that is aggressively killing Ukrainians. And we're going to dive into it, how it came about. But it's really every single day, it just gets worse and worse and worse with the help from the White House. So today, Elon Musk was tweeting exactly this. Let me pull this up. I told you I brought receipts today. Here we go. He says, I literally challenged Putin to one-on-one physical combat over Ukraine. And my Starlink system is the backbone of Ukrainian army. Their entire front line would collapse if I turned it off. What I'm sickened by is years of slaughter and stalemate that Ukraine will lose. Anyone who really cares, really thinks, and really understands wants the meat grinder to stop. Peace now. Peace now, Elon. First of all, Your Starlink is a service that you provide not for free. Poland reportedly pays $50 million for this, right? And also Ukrainians, whom I know personally, pay $60 every month for this service. Nothing came for free. Also, whatever came from United States was bought by the Biden administration. So are you providing service or are you jiggling? Are you trying to benefit Russia same as you did in 2022 when Ukraine was really, really being successful? And so you turned off Starlink for them, so everything would collapse, people would die, and ultimately that operation would not succeed. Back to what I just started with, or what I began with. When they're saying something, flip it 180, and also remember, if they're warning about something, probability is very high that it's already being done. We will explore how Russia reacts to it. I have everything here for you. Let's continue with the news. Now, Republicans in control of House of Representatives now showed up and unveiled their 6-month stopgap government funding bill. That happened yesterday on Saturday to avoid a potential government shutdown on March 14th. Now, this thing certainly contains cutting Medicaid. I'm going to dive into it in the newsletter tomorrow when they start voting. This will pretty much drag and then bring the government through September. Trump went on Twitter shitter and True Social and posted in caps, please vote for it. And we need just a couple of months to get back to our golden age, which means that America pretty much has few months until we collapse, or I don't know. Altogether, all of anything that is happening is pretty much showing us his next bankruptcy, right? He has 6. Now the 7th one will not be reported. We're part of it. We are the 7th one. So for that reason, it is important to know what exactly is happening, but it's also important to see what is legal, what is not. And if it is happening to you, perhaps you're that federal worker or you are working in any type of industry where you are affected, know your rights and don't be afraid to defend them, truly, because that's what it comes down to. Now, White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett said on Saturday or Sunday today, he was hopeful a dispute with Canada over accusations of deadly fentanyl entering the U.S. across the northern border could be resolved by end of March. So this is the first thing that came from the White House this morning, right? They're hoping that this whole thing with Canada will be resolved. Excuse me, who started this disgusting shit show with Canada? You. What is 38 pounds cross the border, or fentanyl cross the border in a year? You can pack it in one car through that border. And somehow, why are they keeping on talking about fentanyl, right? Because if a country, United States, were to impose tariffs officially, it would need to go through Congress. So to bypass it, it has to become a security issue, national security issue. So for that reason, they're connecting it with fentanyl, which is bogus and it's really not, explanatory or even makes sense when it comes to Canada. We're going to dive into that exactly. So first thing that comes from the White House is we want to resolve all of it. Then Trump goes on Fox News. I spare you the clip. He goes rambling about Ukraine not being thankful enough. There he announces that even though Marco Rubio is on his way, literally, to Saudi Arabia to meet with the Ukrainians without Zelensky, that any minerals deal would not be enough for him to reinstall aid and to continue sharing or resume sharing intelligence information with Ukrainians. So before we even arriving at the spot to talk and negotiate about a deal, there is no deal. And I will explain later that there was no deal to begin with. All right. So on that Fox situation, Trump also says that no, whatever came from the White House this morning is completely not true because I will be pursuing those tariffs, right? Whatever they tariff us with, I will impose that on April 2nd. I'm just delaying it to help our auto industry. And what the shit show, what this shit show resulted in, that average trucks, American trucks, right, went up in price and by, in some cases, almost $20,000. Why? Because they are produced close to the border and they're crossing the border in the process of production several times, and hence every single time they're now taxed 25%. So somebody, I guess, explained it to him if he's able to understand. He was held that for a month, but blaming Canada for it makes absolutely no sense. None of it has to do with national security. Most of it has to do with Vladimir Putin, and we're going to talk about it later. Now, Trump will not. So ultimately, he was on Fox News. First was the White House speaking, then Trump on Fox News. Then later, Lutnick, right? A fanboy of Elon Musk and certainly Trump, who is in charge of this whole tariff situation. He then declared that Trump will not ease up any fentanyl-related tariffs. U.S. Commerce Secretary Lutnick ultimately said. So all of this up and down and in between was just designed so Canadians, and specifically Canadian liberals, would not be focusing on their election and focusing on celebrating their outgoing leader and welcoming new one, but would be just going up and down and in between, and would be all about Trump, who today posted a picture. Half of the face was his face and half was Elvis. And he thinks he looks alike. He does not. I spare you the picture. It's not a pretty view. All right. Now, to some breaking international news, Germany will now, this is big news, this just came out. Germany will reach out to France and Britain about the sharing of nuclear weapons. And this is unprecedented. Germany does not have nuclear weapons since World War II. The defense, right, the, so to speak, this nuclear umbrella, or what we call here the Iron Dome, or whatever you want to call it, is provided by America. And so this military basis, since America really shifted towards Russia and towards this the axis of evil, so to speak, we're part of it. I'll give you all the receipts why I say so, right? And you probably know yourself as well by now. Our military bases and our participation in NATO and us having the intelligence and getting information is a big threat. And so now Germany is asking France and UK to provide nuclear weapons and defend them. Defend them from whom? From the United States. Continuing, the foreign ministers of France, Germany, Italy, and Britain said on yesterday, they supported also an Arab-backed plan for reconstruction of Gaza that would cost $53 billion and avoid displacing Palestinians from their territory. As good as Trump's AI-generated video was with his golden statue, I guess Gaza or folks in Gaza will have to wake up and not witness it and not seeing the dear leader. So good for Gaza. Sticking in the same territory, Israel and Hamas signed on Saturday, signaled on Saturday they were preparing for the next phase of ceasefire negotiations as mediators pushed ahead with talks to extend the 42-day sort of ceasefire or truce, right, that began in January. And so today they did sign it indeed. Or they're close to signing it. Good news, again, somehow bypassing not just United States, but bypassing the White House regime, which certainly is good news for Gaza now and for Arab world indeed. The United States now has informed NATO and NATO allies of its decision to cease participation in the planning of future military exercises in Europe. Now, this will not affect specifically 2025 exercises, but anything beyond that, something that wasn't planned for 2025 and certainly 2026 and so. It gets worse. Trump also will pull the forces from Germany to pro-Russian Hungary. Pro-Russian Hungary, where Orban is literally taking resources, national resources, selling them and putting them in his own pocket. All sponsored by Putin, all designed by Putin, all also sort of a replica of this new crypto fund that we're starting here. And we're going to talk about that as well today. Now, also United States team has ordered the termination of vital support for F-16 fighter jets, jamming equipment for Ukraine, which means, okay, we gave you a few F-16s, but now repair, do you? France is stepping up. France has given the Mirage, or if I mispronounce it, my apologies, gave their planes, and now they're also building factories, specifically even inside the country, to help Ukrainians also fix whatever is broken. Now, Musk didn't end there, right, with the satellite. So certainly it caused a big hoopla today in Europe, right? And certainly I mentioned that who pays a lot, quite a lot, for Ukrainians to, or Ukrainian forces to use Starlink is Poland. And so the great, dare I say so, Foreign Minister Sikorsky, his video went viral on our YouTube. Check it out. It's like over 1.5 million views. He's great when it comes to history. He's great when it comes to putting Russia into place, or in its place. And so he tried the same approach with Elon. This is what it resulted in. He said that Starlinks for Ukraine are paid for by the Polish ministry, and it cost about 50 million euros per year, or $50 million per year. The ethics of threatening the victim of aggressive aggression apart, if SpaceX proves to be an unreliable provider, we will be forced to look for other suppliers. I hope they not just looking for other suppliers, they already found them. And in fact, this is a French company. Their shares went up by 500% on Friday when the rumor came out that they will be replacing those governmental contracts across Europe, which is great news. Now, Musk says, be quiet, small man. You pay a tiny fraction of the cost, and there is no substitute for Starlink. Really? Really? No substitute for Starlink? No. Get out of your head, get into real world, and realize that you're not the only one. The universe is not going all around you. You probably will not go to Mars because 4 out of 8 rockets are exploding. And you may not close the commercial skies, and people might be next time even hurt by your debris, but you're not getting anywhere. You're losing, what, 150 billion in 1 week? Tesla shares? Huge protests yesterday in New York City, dismantling, completely destroying the showroom, Tesla showroom. And yeah, 6 people went to prison, but revolution will be televised. You're not doing great. And now you're fighting inside the White House with Rubio. We're going to talk about it. Now, also fresh from the White House, U.S. officials are planning to use Tuesday's meeting with the Ukrainian delegation in Saudi Arabia in part to determine whether Ukraine is willing to make material concessions to Russia to end the war, according to 2 U.S. officials. Now, this is some breaking news that came up tonight. This is probably made up from Mar-a-Lago. The United States is open to exploring critical minerals partnership. Now, guess with whom? Guess with whom? With Russia, yeah, they already talked about that in Istanbul a week ago. They already signed it. Don't worry. With whom? With Congo. The State Department said today in a statement to Reuters after the senator from Congo contacted U.S. officials to pitch a minerals for security deal, and they want to provide security to Congo. That is highly driven by Russia, highly manipulated. The Wagner Group is blossoming there. Now we're going to send equipment there in return for some minerals from Congo. Congratulations. One of the largest companies, meanwhile, right? So we understand why all this help is now needed for Russia. How was Russia doing before inauguration? A shit show extraordinaire, right? Ruble tanking, economy tanking, everything is restructured for war. They can't seek ceasefire. They can't stop war because they will go bankrupt. And now some news came out also that one of the largest companies in Russia enters free fall. Russian Railways net profit plunged by 88% in 2024. TASS, this whatever their spy agency, said on March 7th. Russian Railways reported a staggering decline, with net profit dropping from 118.3 billion rubles in 2023 to just 13.9 billion rubles. And rubles are, what is it, like 10 pennies on a dollar? North Korea, now that's some bad news here. North Korea said on Saturday that it was building its first nuclear-powered submarine. The announcement came as US and South Korean officials feared that the North may be receiving technological help from Russia. So they sent troops to Russia. Russia put them in the meat grinder. They called it war, whatever experience. But ultimately, they got intel, and Russia spent literally professionals or those experts who deal with nuclear activities, they spend a month in Iran helping Iran and also in North Korea. So for that, they're getting intel. For all the weapons, for whatever help they get intel. So they give intel. Now, this is really worrisome and this is bad news. How White House will handle it. Will they even handle it? We'll see. Now, Iran's supreme leader yesterday said, don't mess with us. We're not going to be bullied by the White House. We're doing really well. The rumor is they have enough to produce 6 nuclear weapons. How far they are in the process is unknown. At least it's not publicly released. But certainly they stated that they will not be bullied, that they have their own support system, and White House can go someplace. The Trump administration resigned a waiver then in response on Sunday that had allowed Iraq to pay Iran for electricity, right? It's Iraq, whatever you pronounce that. Why is it important? Because that would, and that's the thought of the White House, to let this deal lapse, not to extend it, so Iran would not get much financial help. But they're getting intel, they're getting help from elsewhere. So at this point, is it too late? Perhaps. The Trump administration also okay, I said that. German election winner Friedrich Merz, that's the one who will be becoming chancellor once the new parliament or their Bundestag is put together. So their conservative and social democrats, the SPD, concluded preliminary talks on forming a coalition government. This is good news because Germany has to act real fast. So they're promising to get tough on illegal migration, support industry, and boost the economy. Most importantly, they want to really boost their defense. And for that reason, for instance, Orban was yapping yesterday that, oh my God, with everything that is happening, it will just boost German army and they will be the strongest in Europe, comparing them to Nazis and whatnot. Meanwhile, Orban is one of those. And some good news about Pope Francis is showing a good response to his treatment in hospital for double pneumonia, and his overall condition is gradually improving. The Vatican said on Saturday he's 88. He spent in the hospital more than 3 weeks with severe respiratory infection, and that has required continuously evolving treatment. So he's doing well. Good news for Catholics and everybody who wishes him well. All right. Okay, so this is the breaking news now, or the latest news that haven't made it to the newsletter. Now, if you're asking, what the hell is the newsletter? The newsletter is this. You go to Honest, ONEST network.com. There you can, or /newsletter. There you can subscribe and get your email every night around 8 p.m. Also, which was wonderful. I know James is watching here. He wrote wonderful 2 guest articles contributions. One was yesterday, one was on United States, what Doge or whatever they, Department of Government shit show does to us, how it does affect us, how does it affect also the fundamental basis of the United States. I really encourage you to go read it. It's called doesn't justify the means, right? And also another on Ukraine. So please go ahead and read it. So if you are a writer yourself, if you're a professional in the industry, please contact me. I will gladly share the space. And also the newsletter grew for last month. Last month, we hit 6 million reads in 49 countries, which is wonderful. Again, it's free. My point is to spread actual information, because now in this day and age, it's really, really important to keep our head on a swivel, as I say. Okay, let's check your comments real quick and then we go into Paul says, in what parallel dimension are we looking towards annealing? Oh, okay, you guys are talking about it. All right, foolishly believed. Keith says that at the very least, establishment GOP members in the Senate would take at least stand in relation to Putin, but I've learned never bet on Republicans. Indeed, and we don't know how they're threatened and we don't know what they're paid. And this is the two methods that certainly this administration is using, and it seems to be working. Now, let's talk about State of the Union real quick. I will not be showing any, maybe one clip of Trump. I don't think many. So you probably watched it. This is the recap of the week. If you skipped it or somehow you were under the rock and missed it, or maybe you're not from the United States, and good for you. You have good system, like you have good well-being. Probably you do better than us. Now, State of the Union is where president is addressing both chambers. Also, the Supreme Court justices are there. Everybody is literally there. They have to normally designate a survivor in case whatever happens, but it all happens in the Capitol. And this is the big speech that president delivers annually. Now, why am I mentioning Supreme Court justices? It started by with Trump entering the Capitol, right, to the stage, and see what he was actually saying to Supreme Court justices. Maybe you didn't pay attention to it. Maybe you did. Take a look.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Don't forget. So good. Yeah, it's good.
Justice Roberts, right, at the State of the Union, is there. And Trump says, thank you again. We'll never forget. We'll know. We know why, right? Because it was either White House or a jail. And where is he now? Now, Democrats started protesting. Well, the protest was, let's wear pink in solidarity with women. Let's wear black. Let's wear this, that. Folks also had this interesting signs. One had that none of it is normal. Then it was removed. This was a lady showed it right next to Trump when he was entering. Then it was this is a lie, false, Musk steals, and whatnot, right? One particular person, Al Green, stood up and he shouted to Trump on Medicaid, right? He later also explained his notion and why he was doing it. I want us to listen as to what his, point was to do so. Take a look.
And I did it with intentionality. The president indicated that he had a mandate. I said to the president, you do not have a mandate to cut Medicaid. I have constituents who need Medicaid. They will suffer and some will die if they don't get Medicaid. I heard the speaker when he said that I should cease. I did not, and I did not with intentionality. It was not done out of a burst of emotion. I was emotional about it, but I did it with intentionality. I think that on some questions of conscience, you have to be willing to suffer the consequences. And I have said I will. I will suffer whatever the consequences are.
And the consequences came. And so, you see it here. Also, 10 Democrats voted in favor, pretty much punishing him for standing up. My question is as to why nobody exited the room with him, right? Why did he have to be alone? Also, Marjorie Taylor Greene did the same thing when Biden was speaking. Nothing ever happened to her. But since we have a lot of content to cover, here's a reaction from somebody I admire, the creator of Vatnik Soup. If you know, you know, and you appreciate it. If you don't know, please subscribe. And this is his thought and reaction as to Democrats protesting. Again, this is not anybody's opinion. It's his opinion as a European. Take a look.
American Democrats are the worst at protesting against authoritarian leadership. Many of you probably saw this speech President Trump gave to the Congress, and what did the Democrats do? They wore pink. That was the protest, and they held these signs that kind of said something, but nobody cared. And this is just like you look at like what happened in Serbia. You check this out, and this is protesting, and this is what the Democrats should be doing in America, because there is this massive rise in authoritarianism, and Donald.
Again, his opinion. I also think that actual Republicans need to do something as well. The party was swallowed by MAGA. MAGA values do not correspond with the actual conservative values. I know a lot of people like James who are certainly openly stating that, but those who are there, and coming back to, I think, Keith, your comment, where are the Republicans or GOP, right? What are they doing? So let's not blame either or, right? Yes, some people exited also later. I certainly watched Canadian channel. I cannot stomach mainstream media. They're so giggly and so happy, and I can't. So anyway, Bernie Sanders exited also earlier, but he had to deliver a response, not the official one, but he had his personal response as well. So some people exited with him, but it wasn't really talked about as much. And this is also my question. Why don't we talk about everybody? Why do we have to make it about one Black man who had the guts to stand up and deservingly so, simply bring up a question, a matter that is a matter of importance to, if not all, many or most Americans? So why do we have to really make it about one person? Why do we have to designate a face to it? So for that reason, we need better coverage. Now, as for me, I would describe this entire State of the Union with this clip. Take a look.
The days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over.
We are in Twilight Zone, where right is left, left is right, up is down, down is up, black is white, and we're all fooled. And yeah, quite, yeah, if not dead, then poor. Anyway, we're part of the 7th bankruptcy. Just to see it that way, then it makes sense. Now, Rachel Maddow did a fact check. She did a great fact check. I want to feature it for just a minute. If you missed that, here's the fact check of what was said and what was lied about. And hint, everything was a lie.
For the record, the worst inflation in this country was in 1980. For the record, the economy that he was left by President Biden was not a catastrophe. It was literally the best economy in the world, and was described by The Economist magazine as the envy of the world. That was the economy that was left to Donald Trump by Joe Biden. For the record, Social Security is not paying benefits in large numbers to 300-year-old people, or 250-year-old people, or 200-year-old people, or 150-year-old people. In fact, the idea of Social Security as a bastion of massive fraud and overpayment is completely false. For the record, U.S. auto company CEOs are not psyched and delighted and so excited about President Trump's economic policies, including his tariffs. Take, for example, the CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, who said that Trump's tariff policies would, quote, blow a hole.
All right. So thank you for your comments. I will be showing them. Thank you, contribution. Thank you for being part of this. We're together, are discussing it. I don't see it as a monologue, but rather a dialogue together with you. What I wanted to show, what did I want to show? Just literally froze. Oh, economy, Biden economy. Here you go. Not a disaster. I kept it saved here in the live stream for about 4 months because I knew we're going to talk about this. And take a look. This has nothing to do with disaster. And also, James is absolutely right. Trump does not have authority to cut Medicaid or Social Security or even mess around with that. But we see what we see, and certainly we know where it's headed. Now, jumping to another event, FIFA World Cup. I know you didn't watch it. I watched it for you. I'm pretty sure you did not watch it because why would you? But it was so disturbing and so ridiculously funny and sad at the same time. It as almost as it was sort of like a continuation of the Naked Emperor, right? It's like, oh, and that was chapter 2. He gets a golden key. Trump literally got a golden key from FIFA. FIFA that is very much sponsored by Russians. There's sort of a money laundering machine for them. It's very corrupt. It has nothing to do with like a democratic or sort of a healthy competition. It's all about clubs. Also, they renamed now the World Cup. It's a FIFA club. So you get the point. Now, why is it important? Because Trump started talking about the rigged election. Later, he dragged the same FIFA Johnny into the next crypto meeting to speak again about the rigged election and then flip the narrative and explain as that's what he meant by it. But first he said this. Take a look.
When we made this, it was made during my term, my first term, and it was so sad because I said, can you imagine I'm not going to be president? And that's too bad. And then what happened is they rigged the election and I became president. So that was a good thing. That was a good thing. That was quite an achievement for both of us. So
later he said that the Democrats rigged the election, so he lost, and then later he became president. But just imagine any other president saying this seated at the White House, at the Oval Office, at the desk. This is a replica of a Resolute desk because Musk's son X put all the boogers on the actual Resolute desk, so they're cleaning it. And but okay, let's move on. I'll show you the clip where he pivots back. This is FIFA's Johnny explaining that Trump signed executive order proclaiming himself, naturally, as the head of this task force, a FIFA task force. And JD Vance would be the vice chair of this FIFA task force. Take a look.
States of America, 11 cities, 12 stadiums, the best players in the world, the best teams in the world. America will welcome the world. There will be millions of people coming, Mr. President, millions of people. The economic impact is 40 billion US dollars between now and next year. We will create
to FIFA. They're coming to New York and New Jersey. Do you think we're struggling? We will be struggling when these folks will be here. If you're familiar with soccer and soccer fans, they tend to break a lot of things too. Anywho, then came the trophy. The trophy looks like it belongs to a shitter at Mar-a-Lago because it's so golden. And it also spins. Take a look.
the trophy. There is a key.
Oh, wow.
There is no other sports trophy like that.
Oh, that is, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta be kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait.
Wow.
So Trump got the key. He then also said he will keep the trophy till July 13th when a team that is winning would get it, and then said, well, we only let them take a picture with it, and then I want it back at the White House because it's so golden, and now it spins. Anyway, later, he also said that the tension between now US, Canada, and Mexico would be so good for FIFA that people would be attending those matches to hear the booing of particular anthems. And this would be so spectacular because all of it is a reality show. It's all about views. Now, next was a crypto event. Yes, some of the crypto folks commented on Blue Sky. And if you're not there, please follow me. I post 90% on Blue Sky, maybe 10 on X for particular reasons. Now, folks said, well, the main thing that did happen at this crypto reserve event we created Bitcoin reserve. So they did separate in that executive order. They created a Bitcoin reserve and then said that we're the capital of crypto, right? They did separate, people wanted me to say it. Yes, they did. Is it a scam? All of it kind of is. Also, Putin's former advisor has said that before even the talks with Zelensky were in the process of planning those infamous talks at the Oval Office, Russia has given Trump $1 trillion in cryptocurrency through Saudi Arabia. This was also kind of hinted and messaged today by the State Department that yes, Rubio is going to talk to Ukrainians in Saudi Arabia, but he's mostly talking about the wealth fund and Saudi Arabian contribution. This is an official statement. I will be posting it on Blue Sky X, whatever, later. Now, this recently came right before I was in here. Now, so the crypto fund is a legal way now to invest directly and give directly. Per former Putin's advisor who is close to Kremlin and has his resources, the $1 trillion that was given in cryptocurrency was sort of like a loan, and let's see what we can get for it. Hence the $500 billion minerals deal in Ukraine. That, let's talk about it later, but hold your thought. Let's go through the events because I want to get out of this White House thing reporting. So, or proceeded, and so we can talk about other things. Now, the crypto event. The crypto event was, again, Twilight Zone. It started with Trump dragging Johnny, right? Johnny from FIFA. So he could, again, explain what he meant by the rigged election. Because probably somebody told him, hey, what you said here will cause a little bit of a situation. So take a listen.
Johnny Infantino was my friend for a long time, and during my first term, we worked out a deal to get the World Cup, and then because of lots of interesting things that happened, I ended up being president. Wanted to shut up. I was always disappointed. I wasn't going to make it. I was going to serve 8 straight, and said we did it the hard way, but maybe the more important way. So I will be with you as president, Johnny. So maybe you could just say a few words.
Johnny was not supposed to be at the crypto meeting, but it was important to correct whatever was said before. All right. Now, Trump is talking about crypto fund and what he has signed.
Last year, I promised to make America the Bitcoin superpower of the world and the crypto capital of the planet. And we're taking historic action to deliver on that promise, as you know, around the table. Yesterday.
And around the table were those fanboys that were first in California, then they were in Mar-a-Lago. Now all of them are holding positions. First, David Sachs. David Sachs, if you remember when Elon acquired X or Twitter, Sachs was going live with Elon and looking at him like he's ready to have children with him. That's him talking to Trump, naturally thanking him.
Your vision and your generosity, and I really want to thank you for that. We're also here because of your desire to make America great and to introduce a golden age in America, including for digital assets. And we're here because of your love of innovators, or as you might say, high IQ people. Yeah, we know you love high IQ people. And we have about 30 of them here in the room today. These are the top people in the digital asset industry. And one other thing that I think that you love is legal fairness. This is an industry that...
Yeah. Treasury, Besant, whatever.
President Trump is creating assets for the American people, while most past presidents have created debt, and a large part of...
By the way, it has nothing to do with American people. It's not your money. You will never see that money, same as the money into minerals. Now, I'll explain it later with Ukraine. They say it's taxpayer money. We need to get it back. Taxpayers are not getting it, nor are you getting the Bitcoin. If you are waiting with your digital wallet open, no. Unfortunately, no. It's not Santa. It's not going to come. Lutnick, take a look.
Of the Trump presidency. He understands technology, he embraces technology, and he's going to use technology to drive America forward.
North Korea at this point is very jealous. And And then it continued that way. Everybody thanked and all this. Now, it later pivoted back to Sachs, who made a comment to a crypto investor about being at the White House while he was guesstimating to actually end up in jail. Take a look.
Cameron, I think you said something earlier that I thought was really profound. You said that a year ago you thought it would be more likely that you'd end up in jail than at the White House. You, not to put you on the spot, because you didn't do anything wrong, but that was the environment a year ago. But do you guys want to say something, either one of you?
Sure, that was actually Tyler who said that. But
it was Tyler who was worried to be in jail. But, you know, we're all at the White House. Ultimately, that was the goal. Now, this, meanwhile, the golden trophy was right in front of them. I cut the clip short. We need to get off. We need to get forward with our here, whatever we were discussing. Anyway, the trophy that kept spinning is standing there. The point of the spinning trophy, I Googled it because I was so like, why is it spinning? It's supposed to show how the solar system will look like at the kickoff in Miami in whatever, 2026. So next came also this week the job report. Naturally, the White House with their statement lied. At this point, didn't lie right away, but just didn't mention what actually had to be mentioned. They said the country gained 10,000 manufacturing jobs. Yay! Imagine we have 350 billion people. In President Trump's first full month in office, a swift turnaround after losing an average of 9,000 manufacturing, blah, 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 blah. Now, the reality of that job report is that U.S. saw approximately 172,000 layoffs in February and 245 increase from January, marking the largest monthly jump in job cuts since COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, according to a report. Now, this was also the highest number of job cuts in February since 2009 during the financial crisis. Over a third of these layoffs, 62,000, came from the federal government's Department of Government Efficiency headcount reduction. But federal workers weren't the only ones affected. Retail also suffered, losing nearly 40,000 positions. According to CNBC, the retail sector has already shed 6 times more jobs this year than during the same period last year. So whatever comes from any White House, State Department, or any official entity at this point has to be checked, because all of it is very much propaganda-like. So, next, and this was the highlight yesterday at Saturday Night Live. No, I'm not going to show you the clip because we're going to be banned. They have pretty good copyright with Saturday Night Live. But the infamous, at this point, fight between Marco Rubio and also Musk. Also, Musk had a pretty tough discussion with Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, who said, you want me to fire FAA workers? By the way, today was another crash in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, 5 people passed. And so Duffy says, listen, I can't fire more FAA workers. You know, and Elon starts screaming at him, remembering, you know, he's a reality star. We all saw that clip with naked Duffy in front of the window. We get it. But with Marco Rubio, they pretty much, they don't like each other. Let's put it this way. And, of course, the report by New York Times followed, where they sort of put the color, as we call it, into describing the situation and whatnot. I don't want to dive into it. It's none of the important. It's not going to benefit your life knowing about it. It's entertaining. Yes, you can go read it. What actually confirms that it did happen is this tweet by Trump yesterday. Elon and Marco have a great relationship. Any statement other than that is fake news, of course. And if he says it, that means it bothers him for some reason. Also, he pretty much shut down that question when he was with the FIFA's Johnny in the Oval Office. Take a look.
You last spoke about it yesterday. Some details have come out about your cabinet meeting with Elon Musk and some clashes potentially between Secretary Rubio and Secretary
No
Duffy.
clash. I was there. You're just a troublemaker. And you're not supposed to be asking that question because we're talking about the World Cup.
Oh, but we're talking for hours with press at the Oval Office daily while signing executive orders. But you're not supposed to ask those questions. after that, when they cut the intelligence for Ukraine, when the rumors started generating that the intelligence is now going towards Russia, why? And I did state that there were 3 sources from on the ground in Ukraine that told me that we are guesstimating they have intelligence. Why? Because we're completely shut off Ukrainians, right? We can't prevent attacks, we can't foresee them. Alarms stopped in Ukraine because they cannot anticipate attacks, and they cannot even alarm people to go hide in the underground or wherever they can. Now, the bunkers underground. Also, the Russian targeting improved. Normally, Russian targeting is plus minus 300 meters. Like you might hit this house, but maybe it could be the one next to it. And so hence a lot of civilians have suffered. Yes, targeting civilians, but mostly they target in critical infrastructure, electric grid, hospitals as well, right? So what did improve immediately when the news came out that U.S. has stopped sharing information intelligence with Ukrainians, and also the satellite images, they prohibited the private company to keep sharing it with Ukraine. Suddenly Russians could target specifically the targets up to 100%. And so Ukrainians are saying, well, we see. It's not like we're guesstimating. It's not like somebody told us or whatever. We see that they have improved by 100% and we are completely shut off. And so this was happening exactly on Friday evening when Trump was leaving the White House. He was leaving together with Elon and his chief of staff, right? And then they arrived in Mar-a-Lago. This is their arrival. And so all weekend is golfing. Yeah, we have the pool reports, how many holes he did or whatever. If you need a visual, here's an older video.
Oh, he shanked it. Oh my God, I got that on video.
Yeah. He also likes not even kicking the ball, but looking as if he did, and everybody who's next to him just follows his, and then he picks up the ball and walks off. It's tremendous, bigly. Now, let's talk about Ukraine. To see what actually did happen and how did we get there, let's start from the beginning, so to speak, right? So first, before even Trump was elected, he promised to finish the war, right, with Ukraine in 24 hours, right? Then he was elected. Nothing was happening. He was, in fact, talking to Putin privately, designing whatever need to be, put into place to get to where we are here, where Ukraine is shut off, no aid, tortured to sign some type of deal, and right. So this was all happening in the background, but nothing was really happening up front. Then he was inaugurated. 24 hours passed, 48 hours passed, nothing was happening. Now, Kellogg, the special envoy that Ukrainians put so much hope into, I know he sounds healthy like Special K, but he joked about it. He was at the Council on Foreign Affairs in Washington, D.C. I was invited to cover it. I tried to escape Washington, D.C., or avoid it. He was joking when he was asked about finishing the war within 24 hours. Take a look what he said.
Sorry. Pardon? Can you he didn't say. It's almost like, remember the president said he was going to end the war in 24 hours. We didn't say what day, what year. So I think that.
He didn't say what day. Ha ha ha. When talking about Ukraine, when talking about and confirming that the intelligence has been cut off, or Ukraine has been cut off from receiving intelligence reports, Kellogg said this. Take a look.
The best way I can describe it is sort of like hitting a mule with a 2x4 across the nose. You got their attention, and it is significant, obviously, because of the support that we give. Okay, but it's one way to sort of get your attention to do it. But it's a pause. It's not an end. And it's then up to them to do it.
It's not a pause. It's the end. It all started also with this, well, physically very ineffective resolution at the UN, but it was effective in a way where it showed who does United States suddenly align with. This was this vote on pretty much a regular resolution saying that Russia was the aggressor. It's marking third anniversary of the war and brutal Russian aggression against Ukraine. You see who voted against, right? And here I want to really pay attention to two things. Of course, United States, right? Joining Nicaragua and Russian Federation and Mali and Marshall Islands, but also Israel. Israel, who was very much affected on October 7th, where the whole world, right, stood up for Israel, where United States stood up for Israel, where Ukraine stood up for Israel. And now Israel is siding with Russia, siding with United States, voting against seeing Russia as an aggressor. Just stating. Of course, all Israel is not, or Netanyahu is not all Israel, same as Putin is not all Russia. There are good people in Russia, good people in Israel, but we have to see countries for who they are. Same as people see us Americans now at this point as big a-holes all around the world. And it got worse, right? With UN resolutions, something that is not, again, UN resolutions are not effective in terms of like it's not a law that you need to focus, but it helps you see what the tendencies are, what the alignments are, right? As recent as on the 5th of March, this vote happened at the UN. And it's a very regular vote. It's just voting about establishing a day of hope and a peaceful coexistence. All countries, you see, most of them voted in favor. India, Paraguay, and Peru did not vote. They abstained. United States was the only country to vote against it. They're against hope. They're against peaceful coexistence. And whoever the unconfirmed envoy is at this point, they said that this goes against so this is pretty much too woke. And the election in the United States showed that people are anti-woke. And so we will be voting against hope and against those development goals that UN wants to accomplish by 2030. They're only 23% in progress of accomplishing them. It has to do with ecological situation, also, green deal and whatnot. So to the point, we're showing where we are aligning. Even Russia here and all of them, China voted in favor, we go against. It just to show that we are against whatever the narrative is, right? So continuing as to what progressed with Ukraine. First came this vote at the UN. And then meetings with Russia followed. The meetings were in Saudi Arabia, the meetings were in Qatar, and so officially the topic was Ukraine and ceasefire. But what came out of those meetings, that US is pretty much willing to remove sanctions against Russia, willing to improve the economy. People who I know personally, who are very well and wealthy in the United States, are advised to start investing in ruble because they're advised by Goldman Sachs that things will be upbeat, right? Ruble is 11 cents of a dollar at this point. But they also start talking about opening embassies again. Russian embassy in Washington, D.C., and also sending more diplomats. Meanwhile, Trump announces that he will pull the embassies, meaning diplomatic staff, from Western Europe. France, England, all that. So really focusing on the Russian sector. So what came out is that Putin said, look, you want minerals? We have more than Ukraine. You can trade with us. You can trade with Africa. I'm going to connect you. And so those were the talks that did happen. It was not about Ukraine. It was a chance to meet with Russia, make it semi-official with the pretense that the talk is about the ceasefire. So let's call a thing a thing. All right. So Then purchase Russian minerals. I have my notes, so I remember. But first, let's think about what the deal is about Ukraine and minerals, right? We understand that they can get them in Russia, but what do they want in Ukraine? Here's a map of the minerals in Ukraine. Do I have this map? I certainly do have. Just a second. Yes, here we go. So the red part is the occupied area. In that occupied area, reportedly, I posted it with sources, I put it in my newsletter, that in the occupied, the red area, 12 Chinese companies are already busy digging those minerals. The minerals you see here, from yellow to blue to red to, you see the spectrum here. In the green area, that's what Trump sort of considers. First, it was 500 billion. Then it was 200 billion. The idea, when the talks that happened in the background, according to Moscow sources, is that even though Trump says that the security, right, that Ukraine will get is that since American companies will go to Ukraine to dig up minerals, right, and get more from compared to what US invested. Again, US invested about 120, 150 billion, depending on if you count direct aid or not, medical aid as well. But most of the money, 67 billion, was provided as an aid, where Ukraine, or that money allocated for Ukraine, was buying older equipment from Pentagon, replenishing our stockpiles, saving us money on maintenance and storage, and allowing us to purchase then newer equipment, right? 37 billion was in direct aid. So nowhere near 500, nowhere near even 200. But the pretense is, that's what JD Vance was saying in the Oval Office, that the security is that while we're at it, Russia will not disturb us from doing what we're signed up for. Moscow sources say the deal with Ukraine is that, okay, you say you want $500 billion for minerals you signed with Ukraine, but if Russia were to extend the war into the zones that are not occupied currently, Russia would just simply give you United States $500 billion. Crypto reserve, yeah. And then Trump would say, well, we don't even have to do the work now. Fantastic. We got the money without even doing the deed. So for that reason, this is not a security guarantee. The deal has nothing to do with our taxpayer money, whatever we gave to Ukraine, even if we're talking about those $37 billion that were given in direct aid. Who would profit from this deal would be corporations. And one corporation in particular, which is Tesla. That's the corporation that certainly needs those minerals and would be relying on them. So I really want us to understand what the deal is and what it is not. And certainly now, going into discussions in Saudi Arabia, Trump openly says, well, minerals are not enough to resume aid, right? To resume also intelligence sharing and satellite images. Now, then the infamous meeting happened at the Oval Office. For kicks and giggles, listen to what Zelensky had to listen to. This is actual clip, but just focused on his face. Take a look.
I've stopped wars. I've stopped many wars. My people will tell you, I stopped wars that nobody ever heard about. I stopped wars before they ever started. You can look at some of, I can give you a lot of nations that would tell you right now they were probably going to war. I can tell you right now there's a nation thinking about going to war on something that nobody in this room has ever even heard about. Two smaller nations, but big, still big. And I saw.
So that's it. Wow. And then the setup happened, right? I explained to you the mineral stuff was already discussed with Russia about what comes now about Africa, specifically, Congo area and minerals from Russia and what the deal would be. So the whole setup, there would be no signature needed, right? It's also very interesting how when Trump just signs executive orders, he brings up the whole thing and shows it and he's ready to sign and yada, yada, right? And give up the Sharpies to everybody, which other people used pens. Here was nothing to sign. It was literally nothing. They just sat there. And so JD Vance, if you really study the text, right, as to that exchange that went about an hour, suddenly he talks about Zelensky providing propaganda tours to world leaders in Ukraine. And I want to show you what those, as JD Vance called, propaganda tours are. Here's a video of what he referred to as propaganda tours to extort international leaders to give Ukraine money. Take a look.
Найбільш страшний день. Напевно, Буча. Напевно, те, що я побачив. Момент, коли мене деокупували, було дуже страшно. Ми побачили реально, що дьявол, він не десь там, він на землі. Напевно.
Town of Bucha. Ukrainian authorities say they have found hundreds of men, women, and children. Sudan, Russia's agreed occupation.
Back in Bucha, our own James Long and return from the town of Bucha near the capital. So
with the situation in Bucha up here, we're going to start with CNN's Frederick Blanken and the horror he found there. We do want to warn you, some of the images you're about to see.
New images out of Ukraine this morning as Russian troops pull back from the areas around Kyiv and reveal horror that 20 civilian men shot execution style and left lying amid rubble in the streets.
Those are the propaganda tours. And JD Vance says he sources TikTok. He saw things from Russian propaganda. He saw it on TikTok. All of that is just, those are dolls, not killed people and raped children. No. Let's not even get into it. Does Trump have any guarantees from Russia? Because that's the question that needs to be asked. The minerals deal that mainstream media has sort of elevated to as a sort of a way to resolve this whole war and end the war, right? We signed the deal with Trump, the war will be ended. Did Trump do, as somebody in the middle, did he do the work with Russia? Does he have any guarantee that even we're going to have a ceasefire with Russia? Here's Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov. He's translated, so you would need to read the subtitles. Here we go.
Места для компромисса мы не видим. Ведется эта дискуссия с откровенно враждебной целью. Они же не скрывают, для чего им это надо. Макрон, в частности, при поддержке Стармера, они, по-моему, скоро повезут Зеленского на поклон в Вашингтон. Но Макрон и Стармер, как они свой план описывают, надо приостановить на месяц боевые действия, как минимум в воздухе, на море и в отношении объектов энергетики. И за этот месяц развернуть там вот эти вот войска параллельно с согласованием условий мира. Но если ты ввел войска на территорию, то ты уже, наверное, не захочешь согласовывать какие-то условия, потому что ты создаешь факты на земле.
So, if you did not read, or perhaps, you focused on something else, or you were listening, what he is saying is that the guarantees that, so on one hand, Trump says Europe has to do more. The security guarantees will come from Europe. Europe says, okay, we're going to put our troops in Ukraine, specifically French and British. We're going to put the troops so nothing will happen. Then Trump says, no, the only security guarantees are us digging up minerals and Russians being afraid from prohibiting us from doing so. At that point, those are not guarantees. Now, Russia says, whatever Europe is offering in terms of putting troops, no, we're not going to cease fire to allow Europe to put troops, and then we continue versus troop, which only makes you understand. Nobody wants a ceasefire. Nobody wants a pause. But nobody wants to end this war. This is a beginning. They will be continuing. Just understand it, regardless to whatever you're going to hear this week about talks in Saudi Arabia, the G7 meeting, blah, 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 blah. None of it. The deal breaks where Trump did not do, well, he did his own stuff with Russia, but he did not reach that ceasefire agreement with Russia. So he's not in between Russia and Ukraine mediating. He's doing his stuff with Russia. He's doing his stuff with Ukraine, torturing Ukraine, benefiting Russia. Meanwhile, none of these things connect. This is not a negotiation. It has factually nothing to do with ceasefire or ending the war in Ukraine. Okay? So, what happened next? Aid stopped, intelligence sharing stopped. Here's an American living in Ukraine explaining that suddenly they do not hear any alarms. Take a look.
It's early morning in Ukraine, and we're under heavy missile attack throughout the country. I looked at my phone, and there are missiles all over the skies. This is happening because the U.S. has turned off the intelligence spigot to Ukraine. So the U.S. is no longer providing information that, be prepared for this kind of missile in this location, to give the country the opportunity to provide alerts, timely alerts, and also to prepare for deterrence. So what I noticed was that the alarms have stopped. I hadn't heard them.
And this is a scary thing. So then the report came from Time saying the ending of intelligence activities in Ukraine facilitated the Russian offensive, weakened Ukraine's position, and led to death of many Ukrainian soldiers. Then, as a result of this pause, hundreds of Ukrainians have died, one of the officers said in an interview with the publication. In particular, Ukrainian troops in Russia's Kursk region are having difficulty holding the captured territories since they no longer have access to American intelligence. In addition, the armed forces of Ukraine lost the ability to detect Russian bombers and military aircraft taking off from Russian territory. That's what this gentleman is referring to. Ukraine says U.S. might be sharing the information with Russia. Targets are precisely hitting the critical infrastructure. Now, how does Russia react? You will have to read subtitles. Please read them because it's worth the struggle.
Внимание, есть окно возможности, но ведь прекрасная вещь, значит, информацию закрыли, спутники отключили у них, приостановили оружие, там убрали даже с сайта соглашения у них, так сказать, с Зеленским. То есть надо идти сегодня, конечно, по тому треку, который предлагается. А трек предлагается вплоть до духовных вещей. Там вышел этот с крестом на лбу вице-президент. Да, это
Марко Рубио, госсекретарь.
Это возможно было представить эту до Трампа? Да это вообще невозможно. Традиционные ценности. Это серьезная вещь. Что, мы не будем это поддерживать? Будем, конечно. Обязательно.
Мы поддерживаем все абсолютно. Жутко нравится, как ведет себя Дональд Трамп пока, но мы же понимаем, что он наказывает.
We love how he's behaving. Rubio came up with a cross. Ha! Traditional values. They're so ecstatic that they don't even have a good answer to this. Certainly, Putin got more than what he paid for, certainly faster than he expected. So they're giggling. Lavrov is giggling. Putin's speaker is giggling. Peskov, and they're just giggly. I mean, they don't even know how to react to all of this. It's so fast. And as much as we experience this speed, they experience in other regards, but they are experiencing that too. So they need to navigate their story with China now, right? Because what Russia does, and we need to understand that China has a pretense to Russian territories. Historically, they took away a big chunk of territory from China. China is getting bit by bit for helping Russia in the war against Ukraine. Also, Chinese forces are rumored to be already in Ukraine. There are videos, they speak Chinese. There was an agreement, there's sort of a replica agreement from what Putin did sign with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. He signed a replica agreement with Xi, and so he is sending troops, or about to send troops there as well. So for that, Russia is dependent, but it's also what Putin does, essentially, he's using his connection to America, his influence on America as a leverage against China, right? Because America and China having, almost an escalation in Indo-Pacific. Of course, the talk is about Taiwan. Trump does not promise to even defend Taiwan. Wherever we pull away our resources that we invested in Latin America, also in Indo-Pacific, Africa as well, but through USAID, China is stepping in and occupying those resources. So for that reason, Russia is using America as leverage against China, so they would have more negotiation power when it comes to China and the territory. So we need to really be aware of that. Now, Trump also said, I think we're doing very well with Russia, but right now they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine. I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. In terms of getting a final settlement, it may be easier dealing with Russia. Then he also voiced this problem with NATO. Take a look.
The biggest problem I have with NATO, I really, I know the guys very well. They're friends of mine. But if the United States was in trouble and we called them, we said, we got a problem, France, we got a problem, a couple of others I won't mention. Do you think they're going to come and protect us? They're supposed to. I'm not so sure.
Well, you're not so sure because you backstabbed everybody at this point. But remember 9/11? When everybody pulled together? That was the chance to call for Article 5 and put it into action. So, but to cut the chase, here's the reaction, a hilarious reaction from British folks reacting to whatever Trump said. Take a look.
I mean, he's not even speaking as a leader, is he?
No, he's trying to.
I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this. I'm not your friend anymore, I don't care. I don't care, you're not coming to my house. You're not coming to my house anymore to play. No. No, you are. And I want all my stuff back, what I've given you. All my tanks. All my tanks, all my guns, I want all them back. You silly git.
British humor. Okay. Now, U.S. also, I told you, moves troops from Germany to pro-Russian Hungary. Military training with NATO is canceled beyond 2025. Now, the good news is Europe woke up. The old lady woke up, finally. And they are meeting a lot because they have to agree on a lot and fast. Why were they sleeping and dragging their feet for 3 years? They were very dependent on Russian resources. It took time to maneuver. I totally understand it. But now they're waking up and they're saying the right thing. Now, first news came from Poland. And why is it important? Poland said that by the end of the year, they will provide military training to all adult Polish folks, right? First, then probably they will extend it to female. First, the talk is about male training. They also are withdrawing from Ottawa Agreement, which prohibited mining the borders. So essentially, Poland will be mining, or is aiming to mine the border with Belarus and Kaliningrad. For that, we need to look at the map, because probably you're like, huh? What? Or maybe not. Okay, so here's Poland, and you see Belarus on the right, and you see Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad is the little part with access to Baltic Sea that belongs to Russia. Russia is beyond. You see where Russia is, right above Belarus. So they do have the Kaliningrad. They pretty much made it a military hub. So you understand this is what surrounds Poland here. Those are Russian troops, including nuclear activities or capabilities, Air Force, Navy. All of that is gathered in Kaliningrad. How do Russians reach it? This way. You have a little Suwalki Gap, right? This region between Russian forces in Belarus and Russian territory on the Baltic Sea. So for Poland, it is a high probability that if anything were to come at them, would be coming through exactly this Suwalki Gap from Kaliningrad, and obviously direct threat from Belarus. And so what they exiting the Ottawa Agreement to mine exactly this part. You see the border with Kaliningrad and Belarus, which is certainly their danger zone when it comes to next steps. Now, Also, British, right, or UK Parliament became very straightforward, which is kind of unusual for them. Take a look what Prime Minister Starmer said at their meeting. Take a look.
The mineral deal is not enough on its own, but can I just remind him, Russia is the aggressor. Zelensky is a war leader whose country has been invaded. And we should all be supporting him and not fawning over Putin.
I love those reactions. Finland, that shares a border with Russia, that certainly knows what the Russian boot is and what it means, is also very much straightforward.
We Finns know Russia. Russia shares a land border with 14 countries. Only one of them has constantly remained an independent democracy through the Second World War and the Cold War, and that's Finland.
And so, President of Lithuania, right? Let's go back to that map that I showed you. So we understand where Lithuania is, right? Here, Lithuania, next to Belarus, through Latvia, right? Russia can get a hold. Kaliningrad borders Lithuania, so they have they are pretty much surrounded by Russians if Russians were to be willing to invade, which they openly say that they kind of are. The president of Lithuania was very upfront, describing a situation that pretty much what Ukraine does is saves time with its own blood for everybody else in Europe to get ready. Take a look.
There's no need to explain in a detailed way how important is this meeting. We are in the 4th year of the war in Ukraine, and Ukraine is buying the precious time for us every day, paying with the blood. So it would be highly irresponsible to waste this time and to have long hours discussions without the clear outcome.
Also, Turkey. Suddenly, Turkey, that usually maintains good relationship. I mean, they're in NATO, but they want to have a relationship with Russia. They kind of play the double game. They understand what's at stake. And so they're openly willing to even put troops inside Ukraine. Now, this is translated from Turkish into Ukrainian, so you will have to read the subtitles in English. Take a look. This is Erdogan.
Не забуваємо, що безпека Європи не лише справа країн-членів ЄС. Це питання стосується всіх європейських союзників. Як і саміт лідерів 2 березня у Британії, сьогоднішню зустріч бачимо проявом реалістичного підходу до безпеки Європи. Вважаємо, що планувати кроки щодо безпеки Європи разом з Туреччиною у наших спільних інтересах.
And so he continued later that it's a longer speech that he's willing to put troops in Ukraine and as part of the security guarantee. Now, French Parliament went even further. They described our situation in the United States the following way. This is in French. You have to read the subtitles.
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur le Premier ministre, Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, mes chers collègues, l'Europe est à un tournant critique de son histoire. Le bouclier américain se dérobe, l'Ukraine risque d'être abandonnée, la Russie renforcée. Washington est devenu la cour de Néron, un empereur incendiaire, des courtisans soumis et un bouffon sous kétamine chargé de l'épuration de la fonction publique. C'est un drame pour le monde libre, mais c'est d'abord un drame pour les États-Unis.
Oui, oui. Now, Macron spoke for 13 minutes. I posted full video on YouTube. Check it out, also in the newsletters. And he pretty much prepared Europe and certainly French citizens and residents for threat and potential war against Russia. Take a look.
The war in Ukraine has led to huge numbers of lives lost. Our ally, the United States, has changed its position. And there are doubts about what will happen next. At the same time, even the United States is trying to impose tariffs on goods coming from Europe. And the threat we are witnessing from war and terror is not diminishing. Our peace our security are more uncertain. We are entering a new era. The war in Ukraine has lasted more than 3 years, and since the first day we decided to support Ukraine and impose sanctions on Russia. And that was the right choice, because it's not just the people of Ukraine who are fighting for their freedom, it's also our security which is under threat.
Also, by the way, it's worth noting that both Macron's, Starmer's, and Trudeau's approval ratings went all the way up, and Zelensky's approval rating went up to 67% after the Oval Office meeting. So also what I did not mention yet, that Trump spoke to the biggest opposition leaders of Zelensky this week on the, on the background, under the table, so to speak, asking them to pretty much start a revolution and remove Zelensky from office. Both of them denied this. He spoke to Poroshenko and Timoshenko, and they said, well, this is against our constitution. We're at war, so we're not going to do that. So that failed, but he did try. Worth mentioning. Now, the head of EU, Ursula von der Leyen, spoke about even one step further. Take a look.
Europe is ready to assume its responsibilities. Rearm Europe could mobilize close to 800 billion euros of defense expenditures for a safe and resilient Europe. We will,
This is big because now they're utilizing the profits of frozen Russian assets. And so certainly there are in the US, Trump is not doing it certainly at this point, but this was put together by Secretary Yellen, Secretary of Treasury under Biden. I was covering her actually speech on that when she put that whole system together. It was in the Economic Club in New York in May of last year. And so then we had off the record conversation about it. And she said, I warned Putin about it, but if he doesn't play by the rules, that's what's going to happen. Now, certainly US is not part of it, but Europe does have those assets and they will be using it. They plan to use these profits of Russian frozen assets to rebuilding Ukraine. Now it will be used to protecting Ukraine, right? Because the more you wait, the less you're going to have an opportunity to rebuild anything. Now, Kaja Kallas, who is a vice president of European Commission, said also this about the new agreement, the sort of was what they refer coalition of the willing. Right? And this is important. Focus on coalition of the willing and Europe. And then I'm going to tell you some breaking news.
Difficult, and that's why we have on the new initiatives also considered the coalition of the willing, so that one country can't block everybody else.
What are the options today for Hungary to opt out of the Ukraine?
Well, I will not speak for Hungary. I mean, we are still striving for having the unity of 27 members. And if that's not possible, then, I mean, Hungary can speak for themselves.
Because Hungary was vetoing helping Ukraine, providing security guarantees. So they're trying to find a way without it. This is also a way out of the NATO, right? So where US can veto anything. Right? Because we do have the veto power. For that reason, I do not believe Trump will be leaving NATO. He will defund it, right? Move troops away, not participate in training, make participation of United States not beneficial for anyone, but he certainly will try to stay because that gives him veto power. Now, the news that I promised to give you is that just at this point, few hours back, Australia said that they will be joining the European-led coalition of the willing to support a lasting ceasefire in Ukraine. A statement was issued by UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's office. And so now we're uniting. Also, who's joining this whole thing is Canada. And Justin Trudeau was very straightforward on what did happen in Ukraine after meeting with Zelensky, after meeting with Europeans in Europe, post this Oval Office incident with Zelensky. Take a look.
In 2014, Russia chose to invade Ukraine, to occupy Crimea and parts of eastern Ukraine. For that, they were kicked out of the G7. And in 2022, They chose to violate the existing ceasefire and invaded Ukraine with the intention of taking Kyiv in 3 days and the entire country in 3 weeks. That has
And so then he explains that certainly this is of an interest of Canada to protect, right? Protect Ukraine, but also be part of conversation. And I explain why when we dive more into Canada and what this harassment is based on. It has nothing to do with Governor Trudeau and blah, 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 blah. It has all to do with that being Russian playbook. And I'll explain why. Now, how does Russia react to this coalition of the willing? Again, you will have to read the translation. Here's Lavrov, Russian foreign minister.
Конечно, это угроза в адрес России. Если он нас считает угрозой, собирает встречу начальников генеральных штабов европейских стран и Британии. Говорит, что необходимо использовать ядерное оружие, готовиться к использованию ядерного оружия против России. Это, конечно же, угроза. В отличие от своих предшественников, которые тоже хотели против России воевать, Наполеона, Гитлера, господин Макрон не очень изящно поступает, потому что...
Oh, so now we're comparing Macron to what? Napoleon and Hitler. You are the Hitler. You're going against Ukraine. That, by the way, was part of USSR and the whole coalition, defeating Hitler. So, in that regard. So what are the next steps? Next steps are there will be NATO meetings next week. March 11th, we'll be meeting with EU. So EU is gathering together. Now they have to put down coalition of the willing, signatures, rules, yada, yada, yada. NATO will be also meeting with Baltic states. Secretary General of NATO is traveling to meet with them. Also, March 12th to 14th, the G7 meeting will be in Canada. Canada is headlining the G7 for this year. And so Foreign Minister Melanie Joly, she will be, sorry if I mispronounced names, but she will be headlining this G7 meeting. They will be talking about Ukraine, also talking about the Israel situation, also about Syria and what their common agreement is. Now, of course, Russia is not part of G7. US is part of G7. Rubio will be traveling from Saudi Arabia to Canada to be part of that. So expect more vetoing. That's what I would tell you. Now, how is this all connected to Canada? Indirectly, but also directly. So let's revisit. First was December. December, when Trump knew he's about to be inaugurated to become president, he started yapping and talking about the tariffs. That's when Trudeau decided to travel to Mar-a-Lago. Here's the picture of them sitting there discussing the tariffs. He explained that, they're doing already a pretty good job in terms of fentanyl and then prohibiting fentanyl to cross the borders. They can do more and they will be doing more. So all this talking about, or the talk about the tariffs is sort of very much unneeded. That's also the part where the Minister of Ministers, right, pretty much number 2 in Canada, Chrystia Freeland, she detached herself from Trudeau's administration, then ultimately decided to run for prime minister. She did not agree with this approach of treating Trump. Now, then Trump repeatedly, and you saw those tweets, there's no need to bring them up, called Prime Minister Trudeau, Governor Trudeau, you should be 51st state, blah, blah, blah. In the press briefings, it was openly stated that Canada should just, become the 51st state because it will be so much better. Meanwhile, Canada is living better, has better living standards, has better government, have actually reliable government. As for now, we will talk about the voting federal election in a bit, but there's no need for Canada to be anywhere near United States or anywhere part of it. So all of that first was a joke, right? And it was like, okay, tweets and whatever. It's like reality show. But it continued, right? And so it also then was followed by an interview with Putin where he said that who also has the minerals that United States really may need is Canada. And Canada is really misusing United States. So this talk that Trump is using right now essentially came from an interview with Putin. I did post it. It's a longer one. I will share it again if you want to. And so that was really sort of a thing where it rang the bell, right, inside my head at least, where I thought, because Trump is not really tending to focus on one thing for months, but he kept calling Trudeau governor, talking about Canada being 51st state, harassing like that crazy boyfriend that, wanted first to date you, wine and dine you, you did not agree, then he wanted to push you to date him, then he just wants to sleep with you, and then he's just ready to rape you. And I said the words, ban me, whatever. So this all continues for far too long. But if we look at the map and we listen to Putin as to what he says, it really starts making sense. So what Canada did, first, of course, democratic approach. We're meeting. They installed the first talk about the tariffs started in February, which led pretty much for to Trump backing down, same as when it came to tariffs against Mexico. And, Claudia Sheinbaum talked to him, promised a lot, actually less than what they were already doing, like, we're going to put 10,000 troops at the border. Meanwhile, at that time, they already had 15,000 under Biden administration and that agreement. So she pretty much withdrew the troops, but positioned herself as she doing a lot. Trump was happy. Canada installed border czar, David, or whatnot, and everybody was sort of happy. Comes March, we are back to tariffs, and then in that conversation, we observe more harassment. Canada experiences it. We observe more harassment that is really targeted as to providing Canada with only one solution. They say the problem is fentanyl, but the solution is always join us as 51st state. How is that connected to national security? Why does United States need Canada? And so for that reason, we need to revisit the map. And so here's the map. You see Canada on the left. You see on the right Russia. You see that they don't have access to the trade routes near Canada. What do you see on the lower left corner? Is that Greenland? Yes, that's why Greenland. Now you know. They need the access to trade routes. Same story with Panama Canal. Panama Canal has prohibited Russian ships to go through. That is the entire pretense. It makes sense once you start realizing whose agenda we are fulfilling. And so what was different at this point is that nobody backed down, right? Essentially, Trudeau was called to step down because, we're facing tariffs. The Liberal Party is not doing that well. It's sort of a Biden situation again. That's why today I feel I watched Trudeau's speech. I will cover it tomorrow in the newsletter extensively. And I had this feeling as somebody pooped on my soul or dignity, feels unnecessary, feels like, okay, Mark Carney's, I'm sure will be a good leader. Trudeau is young. His ratings are up. He's showing, right approach. He's walking the walk, not just talking the talk against Trump. He's not 82 or that you can claim that he has Alzheimer's or he walks too slow. I think he's not done in politics. Maybe he will be. Again, Canadians, you will decide if he will be somebody. But if it was United States, he's 50 something. He would probably need to wait 30 more years to run for president, given our trends. But altogether, Canada reacts in a very different way than February or January or December. Trudeau calls a thing. He steps out. he imposes 25% tariffs, or promises to impose, which all of it is now postponed till April 2nd, because Trump was really cornered by the Wall Street that listened not to him, because they learned to neglect and really ignore what Trump says, because he's always going one step forward, two steps backwards. But they listened to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who came out and said, look, none of it is good. And as he was speaking, the channels were showing how the market did react, and market was pretty much crashing. And so that led to the Wall Street and pretty much anybody affected pushing Trump to withdraw the tariffs or wait on them. Of course, the Canada's reaction was to remove alcohol from, stop selling U.S. products and alcohol, and even threatening to also shut down electricity, which I'm sure that's a good thing. And now at least increase pricing for it. And at this point, Canada or specific regions are not backing down from imposing this type of tariffs or countermeasures, even though we're waiting till April 2nd for those tariffs where Trump says that whatever they impose to us, we impose to them. But let's explore the reaction here. And first, the video of here we go, of Justin Trudeau coming out and pretty much saying it as is when it came to tariffs. He addressed Trump by his first name. He said, Donald, to quote Wall Street Journal, whatever you did is the dumbest thing ever. Take a look.
At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make that make sense. Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite, but we will not back down from a fight. Not when our country and the well-being of everyone in it is at stake. At the moment, the U.S. tariffs came into effect in the early hours of this morning.
It continued. Then in the Q&A portion, he was asked what was the actual reason for those tariffs. Take a listen as to what Trudeau said.
The excuse that he's giving for these tariffs today of fentanyl is completely bogus, completely unjustified, completely false. So we actually have to fall back on the one thing he has said repeatedly, that what he wants is to see a total collapse of the Canadian economy. Because that'll make it easier to annex us, is the second half of his thought. Now, first of all, that's never going to happen. We will never be the 51st state. But yeah, he can do damage to the Canadian economy, and he's started this morning. But he is rapidly going to find out, as American families are going to find out, that that's going to hurt people on both sides of the border.
Of course it will. But I want us to focus on Putin, and I'm very glad that Trudeau actually spoke about it, very upfront, very unprecedented, as much as, I've been to UN meetings, diplomatic discussions. At that time, Trudeau was already the prime minister, so never heard such things, although I always say, the F word was usually behind the scenes the most pleasant word. And then cameras are on, everybody's very polite. But you never heard Canada, being defensive or aggressive. But there's no other way here. And I'm very glad that we're seeing that. Now, think about why would Putin want this, right? We talked about the routes, right? And you need them and whatnot. But also, there's a very important factor. Canada is the prime country to train Ukrainian forces and also NATO forces in Latvia. So today was a rumor, and I want to call it a rumor, and it was sort of stirred in the middle of nowhere. I could not find any legitimate reason for several people, US-based, saying, oh, there was already a decision to invade Canada. I have not seen any reasonable reason, for lack of a better word, to believe that this is true. not from the Institute of War, not from satellite images, because you always have to see the troop composition. Ultimately, that's what gave away Putin when he was invading Ukraine. He was moving troops for over a year from Siberia towards Ukraine. So it takes time, right? Tanks and troops and all that. You don't see that gathering here. So if they were to go within Canada, I mean, there are many, maybe Russia or whatever goes from the north. But let's explore. So if, let's say, it would be a legitimate reason to believe that US were to invade Canada, what would happen first? The troops would be pulled from Latvia. Also, this would trigger Great Britain to start dislocating troops and start protecting Canada. Great Britain, that is leading this coalition of the willing right now in Europe. So even threatening Canada to the point where Canadian authorities will start to believe that the threat could be imminent or it's a real threat would already benefit Putin's agenda to rebuild Soviet Union, because it will pull resources from Ukraine, right? And US says, I'm not doing anything. It's only on you, Europe and Canada. Now I'm going to threaten Canada. So Canada is going to pull its forces. Great Britain will pull the forces. Now we need to also think about the nuclear protection over Canada. Now we have to also think about here, northern part, right? So at this point, Finland and Sweden are triggered, part of NATO, a huge part of NATO when it comes to military power. So they will be dislocated and on high alert to protect Canada, exposing Europe for Putin to do what the hell he wants to do. So I want us to understand where those threats are coming from. Those threats are real. I think these threats will become more serious just to trigger response. And response would be benefiting only one person and one person only, right? So for that reason, if Europe manages to use the upcoming week to create coalition of the willing, not just talk about it, but really put it in motion, and Great Britain will talk about protecting Canada and creating, we call it nuclear umbrella, right? Or golden dome, iron dome, whatever you want to call it. If that would be put in motion, I emailed so much, like Jolie and Trudeau this whole week. Ask about paragraph 5, like NATO, the Article 5. What if NATO country versus NATO country happens? It's not written anywhere in NATO statute. They're going to be frozen. It's the same way when Brexit happened in the EU. I remember I was at the EU Parliament and I asked a question. It was work placement. I studied EU policies in the Netherlands. So asked the question, we don't have any exit clause. And they're like, oh, nobody will want to exit EU. Later, Brexit happened, which paralyzed the EU because there was no rules as to how that were to happen. So in NATO, what if country goes versus another country? Because Article 5, in order to be enacted, all countries have to sign off that the threat happened against one ally, so we're going to go against the aggressor. So since U.S. would have a veto power to call itself an aggressor, Hungary, like how would countries actually go about it? So this is a very important question to ask and certainly the answer to get. But this upcoming week certainly will be very important to see where this is headed. That's why the tariffs against Mexico are a different thing. It's not like Claudia Sheinbaum is owning Trump and whatnot. He calls her president and says, oh my God, we have such a beautiful relation, whatever. All she does is showing him graphs how the fentanyl is decreasing, when it comes to a border. There is not much interest to do anything against Mexico. You have to put Mexico and Canada together so it sounds better. But essentially, we have to see the threat of Canada being sort of in the position of Ukraine with a crazy neighbor who is aggressive and ready to act, So we have to see what this week will lead to. Certainly, Canadian authorities know that. Their leadership knows that. They're putting things in motion. The only thing is the election, right? Now, given that Carney became the leader of Liberal Party, if there is this the vote on trust in parliament, or whatever, the trust of in government, right, whatever you call it, is called up, and pretty much the federal election is sooner than planned for October, right, end of the year. What will happen in that election? And certainly you cannot allow the same mistake to happen as it did here, right? Even if somebody says, oh, we hate Trump, we hate this, we hate that, but if it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a duck. And so if somebody is pro-MAGA, then none of those threats are even necessary. Then people will just agree, right? Whether it is becoming 51st state or not, but you have to really be vigilant as to what is actually happening and going on. So for that reason, I want to encourage Canadians to really pay attention as to where you get your information. These channels here, this was shared by CBC, as you see. Those are American-owned news media. So since our situation here is certain and you know how it looks like, please just make sure that whatever information you consume, that that this information is valid and it's truthful. When it comes to US, they're pivoting back in terms of the tariffs, and now Lutnick came up with this very weird idea yesterday to talk about convincing companies to produce products in the United States, which he says tariffs will result in. And when conquered as to, well, but this will then cost more because our wages are higher and production cost is higher. He said, oh, maybe then the robots will do it. Take a look.
Do you think by moving everything back as you describe it that they're going to be able to be competitive globally? Aren't prices ultimately going to actually have to rise?
I think if you want to buy things from other countries and you want to bring it into America, then the price is going to rise. But if you make it here, then of course the price won't rise. So make it here. Make it here. How hard is that to say? You know, just keep repeating it to yourself. There's no tariff if you make it here. So TSMC, the biggest chip manufacturer, says, okay, I'll make it here. You're going to watch everybody come to that realization. Apple, who builds it all in China. Why are they building it all in China and giving us our iPhone? Why don't they make it here? You know, they used to say we don't have...
It's cheaper.
One answer, Mr. Secretary, is that wages are lower over there.
And now there are robots who can do it. You're going to see robotic production of iPhones and the...
As to economist-in-chief, newly elected, Mark Carney in Canada, that's what he says to Canadian economy when it comes to tariffs.
Our economy is very strong. Look, this is a serious situation, and it will cause pain to our workers, pain to our companies, pain to our economy for a period of time. My government, if I am Prime Minister, will do everything we can to alleviate that, but we're strong. We are strong. And I would say as well, our economy is stronger than the American economy in the medium term. And we are going to be stronger than the American economy, particularly if the U.S. government continues to pursue these types of policies, because we are looking to expand our trading relationships. We do have opportunities to build this economy. We do have a better balance sheet than the United States. We do have a people who are united and determined to move forward.
So happy to hear the word balance sheet. Sign me up. Common sense. Oh, anyway. When it comes to elections, I want everybody to see, specifically those who are in Canada and will be voting. Maybe you're outside Canada, but you're voting. This is a new video from Justin Trudeau warning you as to what's at stake and specifically about media. Take a look.
There are foreign countries trying to interfere in our elections.
The public inquiry into
foreign interference
has just released its final report.
Our national security agencies have confirmed this. But for some reason, Pierre Poilievre refuses to listen to them.
Will you be joining NCCOP?
No.
And so, again, I really promise. Whenever we know when the election comes, because you have certain rules, 30 days, whenever the campaigns can be, we need to fight it off. This is it's much of an interest of Canadians and Canada, but also reasonable people in the United States. We cannot let anything happen of us being the source of disinformation going over, crossing the border and manipulating the election there, because it would have really, really serious complications leading to that. But to finish on a high note, and by the way, I'll answer any questions, please comment or I'll go through your comments, so put them up. Two videos that I want to show you, the response, Canadian response. Of course, we saw about the electricity. We saw about the winter storms. Come get us. We have this much snow in Montreal. But here's a fun thing about mocking executive order, right? How Trump, signs it and shows it. But meanwhile, prohibiting the sale of American alcohol. Take a look.
Okay, this order, it's a wonderful order. It's a beautiful order. This order is pulling American booze off the liquor mart shelves.
F around, find out. And this is a song that is going viral across the media, where pretty much Canada breaks up with the United States. Take a look.
We were petrified, kept thinking we could never live without you by our side. And we spent so many nights thinking how you did us wrong. Now we've banded all together. Your tariff made us strong, and so you know you're not so great. There's not a snowball's chance in hell we'll be your 51st state. We should have told you this before. You don't believe this, but it's true. You really need our resources far more than we need you. So now just go, walk out the door. We do not need you. You're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who instigated these trade fights? You'll soon grow to regret it when we turn out your lights. We will survive.
I love this. This should be, an answer. Like whenever Trump calls Ottawa or, where, that should be like, instead of ringtone, or like the ringing thing, you just listen to this. You should start every news article or news story with this. Just play it. I love it. It's very catchy. Trump might even sing it. James says, love it. Yes. Keith says, no question, just happy and thankful to see a return of your streams. Appreciate it. Thank you, Keith. Thank you. And I really missed you guys, missed chatting with you. I know it's a bit longer, 2 hours on the dot. And but listen, I had to get it off my chest a little bit. Carmen Cal is here. Hey, missed you. Hey, thank you, Allie. Thank you. James says, Fafo. Yes. Yeah, I think I said it too. POS seems to be an understatement. Yeah, indeed. Always fact check. Yeah, I will go through your comments then later, since we don't. Lisa is still, yes. Pooped on my soul should be a t-shirt, Lisa says. Yeah, that's an interesting. Yeah, indeed. Would be realistic. Bobby, hey Bobby. Trudeau has been a great leader. Indeed. And yeah. Oh, James says, don't poop on Olga's soul. Yeah. That's what, that's the feeling I had. Remember that day, it was a Sunday, when Biden suddenly announced at 1 p.m. that he's withdrawing from the race. And all of you said, go live, let's talk about it. I went for a walk in the park and I was like, I don't know what to say. I feel like, like it's a divorce in the family and you left with an abusive parent. You're like, I know what's happening, but like, really? Unfairness, I think. That's what it feels like, like one thing is compromise, another thing when it's unfair. But, I'm not Canadian, I'm not voting, so I have nothing to say. We messed up big time here, although I voted for whoever I voted, you know who I voted for. Tacky is Trump's middle name. Indeed. Yes. As to White House, some people were not here, but before asking, my credentials are banned. I didn't pass the loyalty test. And honestly, I have no desire to cover any of it because it will take me, no, I know myself, it will take me 10 seconds before I blur something and face worse consequences. So no, because of technology, we can no longer be isolationists. Exactly right. That's the whole point. The world has advanced, so we can cause more damage than before, and that's why, like, it just makes no sense to have physical wars in 2025. Like, it makes literally no sense. Such a barbaric even approach to all of it. Let me go to newest comments. Mensch. Lisa is a mensch. Yes. Lisa says Canada knows what's up. Indeed. I agree 100%. Love to see Olga live. It's 3 a.m. here in Paris. Oh, Lisa, I missed you. I thank you for sending me all the pictures from the Women's History Day or Women's March. Yeah, International Women's Day. And by the way, happy International Women's Day. I think every day should be Women's Day and Men's Day and Common Sense Day. Although I'm even scared to say common sense because it's used by White House so much that it's like, whew. Also, there's a huge list of banned words from this administration. By this administration, I posted it on Blue Sky. It's was released today by New York Times. It's like it's prohibited to say woman, female, male, gender. All that applies as to not talking itself, but when you apply for a grant, you have to avoid those words because otherwise your grant will not be considered or whatever you apply for. It was worth it. Oh, the 2 hours. Thank you, James. Thank you. Appreciate you. Lisa should get a trophy. Yeah, it's only 9:13, already past my bedtime, James. Oh, okay. Well, 10:14 here. So I'm gonna satisfy my guilty pleasure and watch some movie. And then we start tomorrow. So my only ask is please get the actual newsletters. I call it news recap because newsletter is very connected to Substack. Substack is connected to Teal, and I don't want to be part of it. But please, if you're not reading them, go ahead, honestnetwork.com/newsletter. There you can read all of it. You have all those days, right? I sum up. I really try to be very brief. I know it's difficult to digest. Trust me, it feels like I'm scooping poop all day and then dissecting little pieces of poop and putting in the recap. Anyway, but I'm trying to structure it so you kind of see the where it is headed and how everybody is, if anything, for historical reasons, I think it's makes sense to sort of document what's happening. I avoid clickbaity stuff, but I put cartoons, political cartoons. I think those are very important to kind of visualize. Also posts, so you don't have to scroll if you're not on social media or Twitter or whatever. I put some posts that are worth, in my humble opinion, are worth exploring, and also videos. Videos without commentary are all on YouTube here where you watch it, so you can see all the videos, and they are also in the newsletter. So for that reason, again, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next week. But through the week, we are having newsletters. I will also spend this week starting a podcast, which is called Honest Conversations with Democratic Leaders. It will have leaders not just from United States, but specifically, I will focus on Canada now, given the situation of the election, but also Germany and Netherlands and England and, friends. And we'll talk to leaders who are promoting democratic values and views. It has nothing to do with liberal, conservative. At this point, we have to talk about democracy. And we have to talk about the foundation of well-being and world peace, if there is any. So for that reason, we have to focus and promote those voices who are reasonable, right? Like Pete Buttigieg, Let's talk to people who are understanding what's at stake and who are not afraid to speak up. What I faced the first 2 months, and that's why I didn't go live much, but everyone I wanted to talk to in the US is afraid to talk. And so international leaders are less afraid and paralyzed they actually see an urgency to talk about it. Their problem is when they go to mainstream media, everything is so produced, cut together, put into clickbaity headlines, really created with some political angle. So with every interview that we will be having, we meaning all of you and me, because I will ask you to, if you're interested, like I will announce a guest that is coming up in the newsletter, so you can join the Zoom call, express any questions you want me to ask. And so I'm that person between you and leaders, and certainly I'll add my questions too. And every interview will start telling those who are joining, the guests, that we're working on this together. This is a product of my labor as much as yours. So follow up with questions. It's a conversation. It's not an interview where I'm cornering you or have an agenda. My point is to really give you space to speak up and speak out, since the newsletter is really becoming I don't want to say popular, but becoming seen, or is seen at this point. It was referenced by former Pentagon leaders yesterday, also by Harvard, and we're sticking to truth, and so obviously they will quote the facts. Has nothing to do with me, has to do with approach. All right, okay, done. Me too. Read it and post all the time. Thank you, James. Thank you, Allie. Thank you. Maurice, thank you. Corn in the shit. Yeah, right? Yeah, that's how I feel all day, every day. I'm just like absorbing a lot of shit and just putting stuff in newsletter. Anyway, I don't want to get graphic. Okay, love newsletter. Thank you, Allie. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being with me here. Thank you for finishing the week together with me, despite the whatever, we changed the times today in US, Canada, at least this part of the world. Missed 1 hour, so thank you for sticking with me. Good night, all. Yes, Maurice. On this note, thank you for joining me. See you next week. If anything happens during the week, I'll update you. Please go on Blue Sky. Let's connect there. If you have any comments or suggestions, I will try to be shorter. We'll have shorter live streams, but we just had a lot to cover today. Okay? Have a good night. Thank you. One more time. I adore your hard work. You helped me. Keep me saying, thank you, Lisa. Me and Xanax. Oh, we come in pairs. Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.